Now to start removing the coolant and washer fluid reservoir, we're going to have to go ahead and get the air filter box out of the way. To remove the air filter box, we're going to start right up top with the mass airflow sensor. Squeeze the tab where my index finger is and slide the wiring off of there. After that, give it a quick inspection for corrosion. This looks fine. I'll set it aside. Now we're going to move along to this clamp right here. We're only going to loosen this enough that we can slide the hose off of the top of the box. We'll use an 8mm or a flathead screwdriver for this. Now that we have that separated, we're going to come right down along the inboard aspect of the box right here. There's going to be 2 locking clips under here. I'll grab onto the ear, lift it up, and it pops it free. I'll grab the other one. Now I can lift this up and out of here. Underneath that, you have your air filter. Go ahead and lift that up, give it a close inspection. If it needs to be replaced, now's the time. Set this aside. Now we're going to have to start pulling out the lower box. There's going to be 4 areas that you want to pay attention to. Along the body of the vehicle, there's going to be 2 tabs that press in to a rubber grommet. Down along the bottom of the box, you're going to find 2 more tabs that protrude down into rubber grommets as well. You'll notice I sprayed everything down with a little bit of penetrant. That's to act as a lubricant. Now I'll grab onto the box, I'm going to give it a little wiggle, and I'm trying to pull it up and out of the rubber grommets. You're going to find it to be a little bit of a struggle, but you can do it. Now popping this box up and out of here can be very difficult. I'll show you why. Along the bottom of the box, you're going to find that you have 2 little pitons. They protrude out and down. This one right here is broken. It is what it is. Those go right down into the rubber grommets down here. They typically get caught in there, and also you're going to have the same exact thing on the side of the box. Those grommets go right into the side or the fender of the vehicle. Now by removing the air filter box, it exposes the reason for removing the air filter box. There's a mounting nut right down here. We'll use a 10mm to remove that nut. Now let's move up along this way. We're going to start removing the cruise control module. There's a 10mm headed nut that holds the bracket in place. Remove it. We'll slide this out of the way. Now we're going to move along to each of the 2 mounting bolts that you can find along the side. You're going to use a 10mm, remove the pair. Keep in mind, once you take out those bolts, we still have a couple hoses and an electrical harness to disconnect. Now we'll continue on along the back side. You're going to find an 11mm nut. Remove it. Now we can go ahead and grab onto this, and we're going to give it a little wiggle. We're trying to slide it out of its mounting position. With it slid a little further away, we can gain access to our wiring harness. To remove this, you're going to grab right where my thumb is. Squeeze that tab, remove the wiring harness from the area. Inspect it for corrosion, and set it aside. Now you're going to find your washer fluid hose. That's this hose that comes across here. It goes right down to the washer fluid pump. We're going to have to remove that, but keep in mind, once you do, washer fluid will come out of this area. So you're going to want to make sure that you cap that off with something. There we are. Now let's grab onto the coolant overflow hose closest to the radiator. Go ahead and pull it right off of there. We're going to bring this over and put it down and into the overflow tank. Now we can grab this entire unit and remove it from the vehicle. Okay, so now we can get ready to install our brand new unit. While we slide it down, I want to make sure that my hose gets connected onto the washer fluid pump. Slide it right on there as far as I can. Give it a tug to make sure it's secure. You do not want this falling off. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this and I'm going to put it in position over the lower stud. We'll start that mounting nut on here. We'll get to bottoming that out in a minute. Let's continue on to the wiring. Go ahead and connect that in, listen for a click, give it a tug. There we are. Let's tip this in position, put in our side mounting bolts as well. Once they're all started, go ahead and snug them up. Let's get that 11mm nut now. Back over on our original reservoir, we're going to go ahead and remove the coolant overflow hose. Make sure you drain out all the existing coolant that's in this. There we are. We'll swap that over. Now we can put that onto the new overflow. Make sure it's secure. Let's follow that over to the radiator. Slide that on there. Make sure it's secure as well. Let's get our air filter box reinstalled in the vehicle. You have your two little nubs that are supposed to fit into the fender area. Down along the bottom, you should have two little nubs here as well. Let's go ahead and carefully slide this into position, starting with the ones in the fender. After that, we'll just carefully roll this down and into place. Line up the pitons that come through from the bottom of the box into their rubber grommets and slide it in to lock it down. All right. Go ahead and give that a little wiggle to make sure it's completely secured in place. Slide the air filter in place. Now it's going to be time for the air filter box. Looking at the top of the box, you can see that it has 3 nubs, and at the lower box, it has 3 holes. Line them up, put them in, slide it down. As I start bringing it down, I'm going to lift up on this hose so I can start putting it all together. Press that in as far as it can. Make sure you tighten this clamp using 8mm. Let's lock it down. Reconnect in your mass airflow sensor. Listen for a click, give it a tug to make sure it's secure. Now we're going to move along to this breather hose. Slide it right in there. Okay, so at this point, it's fully installed in the vehicle. You might as well go ahead and fill it up with fluid. The forward reservoir is for your coolant. That's your radiator coolant. You're going to want to make sure you top it off with the proper specific fluid, and when you do it, just come up to the center line. You can either continue by using the fluid you removed from your original or use 50-50 diluted fluid. That looks good. Let's go ahead and close that off. And now we can continue on to the washer fluid. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill the washer fluid. Let's go ahead and pull off my cap from the washer fluid pump on the original reservoir. Now let's move along to the cruise control unit. Looking at the bracket, it has a tab that protrudes out. That needs to fit into the fender. And then you're going to go ahead and line up the mounting bolt hole underneath the fender right here. Slide it in there. Get that bolt hole lined up. Go ahead and start this in by hand so you're sure it's not cross-threading in place. Snug it up. Okay friends, we got our reservoir installed. Of course at this point it only makes sense to go ahead and test that washer fluid, make sure it comes squirting out onto the windshield. Aside from that, go ahead and take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.